Okay, so good morning, everyone. Good morning, ma'am, and to my fellow classmates. Let me share with you my assignments. Assignment with regard to issues on Philippine lexicography, particularly in um, dictionary making in endangered speech communities. Now, um, dictionaries of endangered languages are different from those of major languages in any or in many aspects, and of course they themselves are not all of the same kind, but as diverse as ordinary dictionaries with regards to their size, coverage, and design. The main popping problem for dictionaries for endangered languages is that of the limited resources of time, money, and staff, and that even the linguist who is responsible for the dictionary making is not a native speaker of the language. So, dictionaries of a minority of endangered languages in the Philippines are often compiled by a single person, for instance, a teacher who lives in the community, or by linguists regularly visiting the speech community over many years, either as part of byproduct or their research projects. So lexicography of this kind only receives an acknowledgement from few specialists. In most cases, neither linguists nor the general public takes any notice. So this will hopefully change now, thanks to the growing awareness of uh, endangerment of languages and cultures in the Philippines. Language documentation has now been initiated by institutions such as UP or University of Santo Tomas and other funding agencies in increasing numbers. And lexicographic work will be part of language documentation, though it will not necessarily result in dictionaries. Another popping problem is that such dictionaries work on not well researched languages and are limited to rather short periods of time, or short in comparison to projects on major languages that last decades. Though the staff working on the dictionary team usually consists of a linguist and a few indigenous people of endangered speech community. So there are instances that the linguist does not have a thorough knowledge of the language under investigation, and the native speakers are not trained in linguistics. And to complicate things, both parties may not be fluent in the lingua franca they share as a means of communication. So let me just discuss or present to you a number of problematic aspects of making dictionaries for endangered languages. So in our screen, okay, we have here setting the goal of course, the dictionary making, the time factor, the problem of giving preferences to one dialect or uh, a variety of language. We also consider the orthography, the question of how much grammatical information is necessary, compilation of word lists, of course, and the writing of dictionary entries. Now let's start first with the first one. Now, if we say setting the goal when writing a dictionary for an endangered language, it is not enough to just say we want to document the lexicon of the language for future generations and generate a dictionary automatically from a text corpus. Rather, one has to identify the prospective users of the dictionary and what they will use the dictionary for. So being compiled in close cooperation with the speech community, the dictionary should serve the needs and interests of both the speech community and the academic community of linguists. Another one is the selection of the variety of language. So one dialect has given uh, given preferences, for example, over the others. So if the linguist has opportunities to select a dialect, he or she should consider the following criteria. First, which is the most vital one and is used in the greatest range of speech situations. Another one are the children or young people who still use a dialect, or which dialect is the most widespread one. So careful consideration is necessary. The mere fact that one dialect or speech variety is chosen for um, the compilation of a dictionary can make it the standard of the language, which would certainly have some impact on the future development of the language, particularly the dictionary. So that we also have the time factor. So since the project is constrained by limited resources of money, staff, and especially time, just like what we have said a while back, the dictionary making must be organized in such a way that uh, even after a very short period of dictionary makers can produce a useful piece of work. So instead of planning a very comprehensive dictionary that would take many years to be finished, one should consider being less ambitious and search for alternatives to build a dictionary for the speech community. It's like that. Next one is the orthographical matters. So most endangered languages are not written languages or do not have standardized orthography. So if the native speakers who assist the linguists are literate in another language, the language or the linguist should ask them to cooperate in developing a standardized orthography that can be easily written in computer, for example. So the decisions of which orthography is to be used should be arrived at by workshops with the native dictionary makers. So as the standardization of the orthography is often a political matter, it can be difficult, but it must not, so called, it must not hold up the uh, the compilation and production of dictionary by never-ending debates. Okay. Um, Another one we have in our screen we have the grammatical information. So unless it is accompanied by a grammar, the dictionary should at least contain as much as information on the grammar in the front matter as is necessary to fully understand the abbreviation used in dictionary entries. The specific, for example, the specific spellings. Okay, so um, for instance, those used for the different parts of speech and their subclasses and other parts of the entries. Um, just like we have said a while back, dictionary should at least contain much information about these things, particularly in grammar. Okay. What else? We have writing word lists. So the first step in actually writing the dictionary and making lists of words which are to be or are to become headwords or run-ons in dictionary entries. There are three methods that we can use in writing word lists. The first one is, of course, translating word lists in the lingua franca into the indigenous languages, as is suggested at least for the basic vocabulary in most field manuals. We also have extracting words from a text corpus, and the last one is by eliciting words by techniques, which encourage the dictionary helpers to produce word lists without translation, of course. And of course, lastly, just like what we are talking a while back, is the entries or the uh, writing dictionary entries. Now, when it comes to writing the dictionary entries, the problems of having to deal with a natural research language become most obvious. So we already mentioned the orthographical problems, considering also word classes, the definition and translation, the illustrative sentences, even idioms and etymology as part of your dictionary making. So these things are part of your dictionary entries. So to end this one, compiling a dictionary of a not well-researched language means making compromises. So mahirap yon. So the dictionary of an endangered language will not be a perfect dictionary. It will not be a perfect dictionary. But as long as the dictionary can become a good resource for future research and language maintenance measures, it will be good for every speech community, especially those communities um, which has languages are already endangered. So that is for my presentation. Thank you so much everyone for listening.